right, we are live, episode number 84 of the Shant and Ari podcast. Shant, how you feeling tonight, big guy?
Feeling good. Had a real busy day. We're hopping on here a little bit late. I'm sorry for that, Adi, because I know you wake up super early now, and no idea what we were going to talk about. And then 2 minutes before, you got me fired up with this topic, man. Like I'm just going through and just. But you were gonna before we
Reason
get into
why
our
we're
topic.
on the podcast, the reason why we're back on the podcast is because these sort of conversations pretty much they're supposed to come fairly easy to us. We only talk once a week on the podcast. So at this point, it's just like,
It's like we're catching up.
yeah.
Yeah.
Tell
So today we're gonna talk about kind of some books, right? And because we both, I think, more recently have been really gotten into books, Audible, reading, podcasts, right? And we're going to kind of share to each other because I don't know your favorite books, you don't know my favorite books. Some that you're going to be like, oh, you need to, listen to this or read this, and vice versa. So I want to kind of hear. But you said you're just watching a podcast episode, and I said I
Yeah,
didn't watch it because the guy seemed like a douche.
yeah. So let's backtrack for a little. I follow Patrick Bet David on Insta. I don't really listen to his podcast that much. And today he had a guest that I'm actually very, very familiar with. He's gotten a lot of different sort of backlash online, especially from feminists and whatnot. But he wrote a series of a few books that address masculinity and how like men have become basically polarized as either alpha or beta, and his books are all about explaining sort of how men either turn into complete cucks and like
What?
how to like how to guide themselves out of that area, and why it's so important not to ever get into that territory of being so
Okay.
beta, and how it's become more and more common to see guys now um, basically let a woman walk all over them.
Yeah.
He talks a lot about basically the author of these few books. Um, his name is Rollo Tomasi. So if you were to Google him, you'll get a lot of different opinions about him, and he's basically very, very extreme in terms of describing the dynamic between men and women, and how basically the idea behind what he's saying is you never reveal your vulnerabilities in front of a
Mm.
woman.
Like
Like
even if you're
that's
married to them or
especially if you're married to them.
oh geez.
Like you are never safe. There is never a time where you should be vulnerable or showing your insecurities or sensitivities. That shit is just not allowed. They want you apparently
Yeah.
to act like it's okay, baby.
Yeah,
You
girls
know?
usually I think appreciate that, no?
Yeah, because they can hold it against you.
Oh, okay. So
Rolo.
and are
However,
these are not thoughts by Adi, by the way. He's just explaining the book.
yeah, some very, very good opinions. I did listen to two of his books because I was very intrigued. Um, so one of the books, the name of the book is Preventative Maintenance, and then the other one is called The Rational Male. Um, they're both like 20-hour audiobooks, so they're like pretty
Jeez.
thick. Um, and the preventative maintenance one is basically it explains a whole lot about how to structure your relationship
Uh-huh.
so you don't get fucked over. Literally, it's explaining how to act, how to be, how your woman subconsciously wants you to be, so that you don't get walked all over on, so you don't get cheated on, you don't get a divorce. And I could go ahead and just explain to you what that looks like if you want me to. You want me to give you sort of my interpretation of what that
Yeah,
looks
I
like?
mean, yeah, before you get canceled.
I won't get canceled. No, this is just. I'm not going to get canceled. You know what's funny, actually? Some guy that follows me on Instagram randomly, out of the blue, just out of the blue. And he's a very successful businessman. He even has a blue check next to his name.
Ooh,
Yeah,
sounds
lots of
important.
followers. Yeah, yeah. So he sends me a message out of the blue and he goes, "Hey, bro, I want to send you an audio book. I want to send you a book. What's your address?" And I'm like, "That's so nice of you. What book? Like, let me see if I've read or
Yeah.
listened to it." And he sends it to me. I'm like, "Bro, I just finished it." And I send him the screenshot.
What
He
book was
goes,
it?
"What? This was the Rational Male one."
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Why is he sending you that book?
I'm like, bro, you okay? Everything all right? And he goes, yeah, but it's just like, dude, women are terrible nowadays.
What?
Yeah, I'm like, okay.
And you don't know this guy.
I mean, I know him. I've helped him out before with
Yeah, but
BAC
like,
stuff.
oh, okay.
So anyway, long story short, though, it's actually a very very juicy summary that I'm about to give you. Basically, what they're
Okay.
trying to say is that say you're a man and you're in a relationship. Say you fuck up and your job went down the shitter. It's it's a matter of not so much that you let that happen to you, but how you choose to bounce back. Like, are you losing yourself afterwards? Are you
Mm-hmm.
letting go of yourself during marriage? Are you putting and this is fucked up? And a lot of women will think that this is my actual opinion, but it's not. But are you putting her as your primary goal, your primary objective in life? Is she your number one, or is like other things, or are other things as equally or more important than her? Basically, what he's saying is that women don't want to be the most important thing in your life.
You sure about that?
In essence, they want to be the most important thing in your life, but they want to work for that. If you just let them be that, they're eventually going to get sick of the fact that you look at them like they could basically make or break your life. They don't want to take on all that responsibility for your well-being.
Okay.
So the moment that you become like that, the moment that you become soft and let her basically dictate how much of you is invested in her, you got to basically you got to basically pick one or the other. You could be heavily invested in her, or you could be heavily invested in putting your career and your interests as your primary motivation, as your primary drive. As in, your primary motivation should be things other than her. She should be important to you, but she shouldn't be your primary motivation in life.
Because they want to see, is it that they want to see you having like a bigger purpose kind of thing?
Big time.
Except there's always the kind of the psychos, right? That want the 24/7 attention, right? Like we're not talking about the psychos, right?
Unfortunately, Shant.
It pisses a lot of people off of that.
Yeah,
There's psycho guys
unfortunately.
too. There's psycho guys too. Just to be fair, there's psychos on both sides, but it's a small majority of that. So we're not talking about them. We're talking about the normal women. They prefer a male, is what you're saying, that doesn't put them like number one, like that's the most important thing. They want to see a drive. They want to see something.
Yes. They don't want to see the only thing that you care about is making her happy. Um, as fucked up as it might seem,
Mm-hmm.
that's just what it is. That's what it boils down to. And the root cause of relationships or marriages failing is basically the man losing his drive, his motivation in life because he's invested so much of his happiness um, into the woman. Like he has no external motivations. With that being said, I listened to a lot of it. I think that a lot of it is good to just get as an opinion, as some sort of like another perspective. I don't think it's 100% true necessarily, but he does make a lot of very, very good points. I think that a man should never really lose touch of who he is. I don't think a man should ever be way too nice of a guy. In fact, I think that this whole concept of being a nice guy is a
Yeah,
little
we've
bit.
talked about that in previous episodes, right? Like Mr. Nice Guy.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
yeah. So this book. So I wanted to talk about some of the books and audiobooks that have sort of shaped my last few years. And my last few years have been amazing. They've been up, they've been down, they've been fucking weird, but they've been amazing, man. I want to talk about a few of the books that have really, really just captivated my attention and really changed my sort of thought process. And I want to get yours, Shant. I'd love to hear what books are sort of top on your list. And listen, this is not all the books that I'm sure you could recommend, but
yeah, there's
let's lay out a few of them.
yeah. So this is tough, right? I don't think I have like a top five list, right? So we're just going off stuff that's impacted us the most, right? We're probably going to forget a few, I would assume, right? It's too good of a like. We don't even have a top five. I probably have like seven on here, but there's so much, and what I picked were stuff that at that time really impacted me or helped me in a certain way, right? Because and also stuff from the book that actually stuck out that I've actually implemented, right? Because we read a lot of good books, and then I was scrolling through some of them or looking at some of them here in my shelf, and I'm like, oh, that's a good book, but I don't remember much about it. So it's like, was it really that impactful?
You're telling me, do you like? Can I ask you a question, Sean? Do you find it more? Do you find that it sticks more when you read it or when you listen to it?
No difference, right? So the book, well, I don't want to kind of, I think one of yours, it's going to be on here. So like some audibles really stuck to me. One that's not on my list, Tim Grover, Relentless, right? Great book that I listened
Tell me
to.
about it.
Audible, huh?
Tell me about it. Why?
He,
Was that your number one
no,
on
no,
that
no,
list?
it's not even on the list. It's not on my
Why
list.
not?
I don't want to talk about it. So, okay, let's start. So I'm going to start with one of the first books I've actually read, right? Post high school and college, even though I didn't really read in high school and college, which is why I didn't finish college. So the first book, I don't know if you've even read this. At this point, you probably don't need to. That really got me thinking and opened up to like, wow, I need to do something with my life. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki.
Oh yeah. Okay, so tell me a little bit about that and how it affected you the first time. And you said you read it?
Read it at like
That's unbelievable.
23-year-old Shant, 24.
This is
Someone,
before you got into Gary V and
oh,
all
yeah,
that.
this is pre all of, I was maybe 24, 25,
What made you
25.
want to pick that book up? How did that
Someone
happen?
gave it to me at work. Someone's like, here, you need to read this. I still can't remember who gave me that book, but it's been the best thing in my fucking life.
Tell me a little bit about it. How did the whole reading it thing come about?
I couldn't. I'm not a reader. I've never been a reader. I still have struggle reading, but that book I couldn't really put down. Right. So that book, and I'll kind of go real brief, and I'm sure most people have read it. You haven't read it?
I listened to it.
Did you get anything out of it?
Yeah,
Okay,
a lot.
but because I want to hear what you got out of it from. Because when did you read it or listen to it?
Back when I first got my AirPods, I can tell you a very, very good lesson that I picked up from that.
But
And
wait,
I think that you,
where were you in your life, like business wise?
well, I could tell you this much. I could tell you that I was making money, but I wasn't really setting anything aside.
But you had a business at the time.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so
This
I
is like two
started
years
this.
ago, right before the pandemic.
Okay, I started it. I read it when I had nothing, no business. So the reason why this book was so impactful for me, not because you're at a different place, you already had a business. It opened me up to like that side of the world of like, wow, I need to stop thinking of working at a job to make money. Not that there's anything wrong with it, because he talked about his rich dad, poor dad, and his poor dad was his father who went to school, had a really good job, had made good money. So there's nothing wrong with that. But he didn't create anything. He didn't build anything. And so that was that. And his rich dad was his friend's dad or whatever, who was an entrepreneur. And he opened him up to that. So that book, and then he had his 4 quadrants that I'm sure that probably stuck to you the most.
So what stuck to me the most about that book, yeah, you're right. He had his rich dad and he had his poor dad. And his rich dad was basically his boss. And his boss was constantly teaching him lessons back when he was a little kid.
Yeah.
There were little kids, him and his friend, and they were working for his father, and the father was constantly teaching them like little lessons along the way. But the number one lesson that I got out of that book, and I still I think about it all the time, is pay yourself first. What he's referring to is your pre-tax income. Basically, the government the government he's saying can wait for you to pay them the taxes that you owe them. But before you pay your taxes, take the money that you owe for taxes, invest it, get your return back, and then pay your taxes, even if you're late on paying your taxes. And the practical application of it is, let's say somebody wants to they've been working all year, they finally got a little bit of cash left over, but they haven't paid their taxes yet on that
Mhm.
cash. And they got to go and buy a piece of property. The bank wants to see, whatever, 20% down. But the IRS is also expecting that money for you to pay your taxes. Basically what they're saying is what he's saying is pay yourself first, take that money, use it as a down or an investment tool, buy whatever you're going to buy, invest what you're going to invest, and then worry about paying taxes on it. How by whatever means you want. So
Yeah.
very interesting. Like he's saying, like you're not doing anything bad. You're just paying yourself first.
Yeah. And yeah, it's just so many great things. And I don't want to stick on this book too long, but that was just the number one for me that got me into this business side, right? So his 4 quadrants, I know I mentioned that real quick. And just to refresh your memory, it was there's a middle, right? And there's the left side, the right side. The left side, the top left quadrant is the employee, means you have a job. So you work, you get money. Then the bottom left is self-employed. You own a job, right? You work, you make money, right? In the business. Then there's business owner, top right quadrant, which is you own a system, okay? And then like kind of like you. Then the bottom right is investor. You own investment. So your money makes money. And that's when it clicked to me and I was like, huh. It's such a simple thing. So yeah, let's move on to yours, but I just thought it was it's been the most powerful book for me.
So rewinding about a couple of years, the a book that really affected my life, and ever since then I've been a big fan of the guy, um, has been "Don't Hurt Me" by David Goggins.
Can't hurt.
Um, what?
Can't hurt me. Can't hurt me.
Don't hurt me.
Don't
Can't
hurt
hurt
me.
me by David Goggins. Sorry about that. Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. It was a really literally life changing book for
Really?
me.
How come?
Yeah.
How come life changing? That's pretty powerful.
So that was the book that got me to quit smoking. The way that he describes his mind, his thought process whenever he was facing a challenge, like he had to lose 100 pounds.
He faced a lot of challenges growing up, man. That guy went through.
It's amazing because you'd think that his life was like, oh, like he's poor or like he came from like a really, really shitty neighborhood or tough. He actually didn't. He came from a rich background, but like he had like his dad was abusive. They had a very, very successful like skating rink
Mm-hmm.
business. Like he beat them. He beat his mom. Like banged other chicks in front of his mom. It was a fucked up story to hear. But basically, after you hear that and you get all like riled up or whatever, he tells you all about how like he had to basically qualify for a bunch of different things to become a Navy SEAL. And one of the things that he describes, which will always stick with me, is what your mind will do whenever you're trying to give it something novel, something new for it to for it to see. And your mind will literally give you every single excuse as to why you shouldn't do whatever you're about to do. And just knowing this, just hearing, oh, he had to run 100 miles, and on like mile 30, his mind was like begging him to stop. But he ended up making it to mile 100.
Didn't he
He
like have a
he
broken something while he was doing it?
he
Something.
was doing it with a broken leg. At one point, he shit himself. His shit was going up his back. There was a bunch
Sounds like
of weird
Leo.
shit.
Sounds like Leo.
Yeah, sounds like Leo. Um, And what he was saying was like when your mind is fucking with you that much, telling you stop, 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 you're really only at like 40%
It's crazy.
capacity. Like you still got 60% more to go.
It's crazy. It's so true because we do tell ourselves like anything we're going to start new, our mind goes straight to like we get excited first, like, oh, I'm going to do this. And then our mind goes to, well, you shouldn't because of this, this, this. It's sick how our minds do that. And just side topic on that book. First of all, yeah, I was going to put it on mine, but I knew you were going to put it on yours because I know how much you love that book. I think I'm the one who told you to get that book. Um,
Yeah. So thank you.
that,
You were the reason why I
yeah,
stopped smoking.
yeah, I'm the main reason you stopped smoking. The main. So,
Main one. Yeah. Number one.
not you, not David Goggins, me. So, all
Uh,
right, flexing there.
you ever see anything like this on me before?
Never in my life, in the 35 years I've known you, never.
All
So it's
right.
pretty impressive. So that book, because I know you talk a lot about reading versus Audible, that one has to be an Audible because
Because
in
of all the
between,
commentary.
yeah, in between the chapters, it's a podcast with him and the author, I think. And in the book, you won't get that if you're reading it. So the Audible, you have to get that Audible. My friend was reading it, and I saw him posting on Instagram. I'm like, dude, get the freaking Audible. What are you doing? And then he switched it up. He's like, wow, this is sick.
Yeah, it's
So
unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
yeah, so that's cool that like
Oh,
you got something from that. Okay, for me next. I read this one last year, and I'm listening to it this year. Okay, This is a book I want to try to listen to or read once a year. Think and Grow Rich.
Can you tell me all about that? Why is that? You were saying right before we got on the podcast how it's like an unbelievable book. I have it. I just never listened to it. Napoleon Hill's Think
Yeah,
and Grow Rich. It's constant. You always see it on those
top five
Instagram.
lists.
Yeah, like it's always on a list. What is it all about? Tell me, give me like a executive summary.
So I'll give you a quick snippet of what has stuck to me, right? Um, Similar to the David Goggins mindset thing. So he taught there. He gives examples of earlier time people who became really successful and how they had a plan, they thought it, and they just kept at it no matter what. So his whole thing, there's different sections and chapters of the book, but it's really about um, what you're feeding your mind, what you're telling yourself too, what you say, right? If you're saying, I suck at this, then you're going to suck at it, right? But if you're like, I am going to be rich, I am powerful, I am this, just like a lot of affirmation stuff like that, that is what you become. And then there is a part I just listened to today where he talks about there's 7 things that your mind that there's two sides. There's the negative and the positive, and there's 7 in each. And I don't remember the 7 exactly, but when you have a thought, it's either going to be the one of the 7 positives or one of the 7 negatives. Whether it's fear, the negatives are fear, jealousy, hatred, envy, right? So those are some of the, and in the positives, you could figure what that would be. But so when you think of something or when you have a thought, are you going more towards the negative or positive? So yeah,
Okay.
good book. You should probably check it out.
Because I have it, I'll probably end up listening to it at some point. I've list just sidebar here. This list isn't a comprehensive list of like my all-time favorites. They're just the ones that I think that I would need to just lay out first. I haven't listened to that book, so I'm positive that it would probably be up there on my list. But then again, Rich Dad Poor Dad wasn't
Yeah,
up there on
because
my
I
list.
think it's when you listen to Rich Dad Poor Dad. So that was what got me into like this whole new like, oh, I should have a business, I should have investments. You were kind of in it already, so I think that you've learned some new things, so that's probably why it's a little bit different. So give me your next one, man.
All right, so next one, and I'm going to try and keep this short because there's actually so many other good books that I want you guys to hear. A couple of them are very, very interesting that you'll probably be like, what? Um, so the next one, I want to lump 3 books
Oh wow.
into one category that I could tell you are very, very, they worked a number on my brain. The first one was The Power of Now,
Mm-hmm.
Eckhart Tolle. The second one was Rewire Your Anxious Brain. And the third one was How to Do the Work, Nicole LaPera. Basically, guys, if you don't know me or you haven't heard at some point on the podcast, I suffered from debilitating anxiety.
Yeah.
And sometimes even now I'll have moments of just pulsating physical symptoms of anxiety that if you really if I were to tell you I could very, very rapidly untangle it, it's not even a joke. These books made
Episode
me
number
very
8. Episode 8 for the anxiety episode, by the way.
yeah. The Power of Now was a must absolutely read if you have bad anxiety. But Rewire Your Anxious Brain, for those of you that like detailed explanations as to what is going on, Rewire Your Anxious Brain and How to Do the Work will literally change your life if you are suffering from debilitating anxiety.
So I
I
want to ask you about
promise you.
that. How did it really help you, right? Because a lot of people say, oh, yeah, it changed my life, right? And I know you did have anxiety, right? I probably don't know the severity of it because I'm not with you every day. But how did it help you? Like, tell me, like, break that down because this is a big deal.
Okay, so let's break it up into two parts, and I'll try to make it very, very quick. So, Rewire Your Anxious Brain breaks it down to a very, very scientific, molecular explanation as to what is taking place for somebody that has anxiety. So, it breaks it down into different sections of the brain and how one section is firing off and the other one is responding. So, basically, and I couldn't tell you because I can't remember the exact parts, but basically the parts of your brain that are responsible for your fight, flight, or freeze response, and how that looks like physiologically, what is taking place, and basically how to rewire the whole thing so that you can do it so that the moment that you start to feel a certain thing, you can quickly tell your brain that this isn't a panic attack, so that basically you can reverse the panic loop. As in, I see something that usually makes me panic. Let's call it a person. And I know that when I see that person, I'm going to start the panic attack loop. Now, when I see that person, I think to myself like a clown. All of a sudden, like I'm kind of like laughing in my head. Like it basically teaches you
Wow.
what's going on when you're in the scenario. So it also then teaches you how to change how you're responding to the scenario. If I could tell you one key takeaway from that book was the phrase activate to regenerate. Basically, you have to get your panic attack going in
Together.
order to be able to like recode what that actually means. Do you want to know how that helped me with my health anxiety? It's kind
Mm-hmm.
of vulgar. Basically, when I get really bad anxiety, I start to get like a buzzing sensation in my head, almost like I'm about to faint.
Okay.
Like really bad, to the point where like I gotta like get up and like leave. This has happened a bunch of times on the highway. It's caused me to like not be able to drive. Basically, whenever that happens, I think I'm gonna pass out. Right? The sensation is happening, and I
Yeah.
think I'm gonna pass out. What I did was that sensation is happening, and instead of attaching it to the thing that I'm about to pass out, I attached it to the feeling of getting like a crazy blowjob. And like that
I just said
sensation's
it.
hitting it, and I'm
I
just like,
just said
holy
it.
shit, I'm gonna fucking bust.
You could have just said a sexual act, bro.
Why? That would have been so weird.
Can we bleep that out?
Why? I'm keeping that in
Producer.
there.
Adi's the producer and audio guy, by the way. Um,
So imagine for a second, you're having panic attacks because of this sensation, but why do you have to attach a really bad meaning to that? It can be such a good meaning that doesn't make you panic. And then that just went away. Tell me that isn't brilliant.
that's great. You learned it from the book. So, because I know you legit had, let's say the panic attacks you were having was at 100%, like 0 to 100, it was 100. Where are you at now?
Those? I
Just in
mean,
general, overall, like how?
now instead of having those sort of panic attacks, I have different anxiety. I just have like a baseline anxiety. Like at work, when it gets way, way too busy, my baseline anxiety is just like something's about to fucking go wrong right now. Like the phone's ringing, on the third ring, I'm about to lose my shit, and then it picks up. Like it's just a bunch of different little triggers. So basically, my anxiety now is more just very, very irritable at work sort of anxiety.
Okay, so what percentage would you say it's at now?
25, 35%.
Wow, that's a
Before we were
big.
at Yeah, before we were at like 80. It was just constant. Cortisol was constantly spiked.
Okay, I mean, that's a pretty powerful book. I would think that's probably
Well, it's 3 books. It's three
Three
books
books,
that
yeah.
helped me big time. The Power of Now, for anybody that's just wants to learn about overthinking and how your brain is different from you, but really rewire your anxious brain and how to do the work by Nicole LePera. This will literally change your life
So
if you have anxiety.
I was number one in helping you quit smoking. So I was not any part of the anxiety factor for you, helping you beat anxiety.
No,
Okay.
sorry.
Oh, all right. Well, I tried. So the next
Next
one
book?
for yeah, next book for me, and this is going to sound like a weird one. So there's a couple ways I figured, like for me, um, what did a book? How do I know this was a good book for me? One, it's like I can't put it down, either the Audible or the actual book. Um, and the other portion is it really, I took something from it, I implemented it, and it's impacted my life. Okay. So this one, the next one is the Elon Musk book. I think it's just called Elon Musk.
Oh, wow. Was it an autobiography? What was it,
Yeah.
Elon's?
Yeah. It's an autobiography, obviously not written by him. It was an author who did it. And just his story. I mean, he was always a genius, but he didn't come from money. He didn't come from anything. He created, PayPal and all this other stuff. And his mind is just insane of like where he sees us humans accomplishing, right? That's one part. The other parts that I got from it was like there was so many times where his life was over in business, like crushed. And I mean, this is not like a fluff book where they try to just make him look great. In the book, he doesn't look like a great human. Like he treats a lot of employees like shit. He's very demanding. Like you can't, like he is a very, very demanding. If you work for him like directly, you're out. You work probably 300 hours a week, right? It's not like a fluff book about how great he is, but the times where he almost lost Tesla, lost like a couple of other like PayPal, and he just had to be like the fact that he believed in it so much, he would not waver 1 second when everyone's like, dude, just give it up. Like you're gonna lose all your money, you're gonna go broke, this, that. He just would not, because he had a vision, he had the belief, and he just would not give up. And so it just kind of cool to see that in the business sense where like you could actually lose. He was about to lose Tesla within days, and he just kept going in more debt, more debt, more debt. So yeah, I just thought that's really good book, in my opinion.
Very interesting because Tesla now is competing with BMW over the number one spot.
Who would have thought?
Unreal.
Who would have thought, right?
Yeah, who would have thought? Really, it's unbelievable. It really is. It's unbelievable. To be honest with you, I kind of don't want to believe it because, as you know, I'm not a big Tesla guy. So,
Yeah, you're up.
no more Mr. Nice Guy. We've talked about this
Yeah.
on the podcast. And actually, the funny thing about No More Mr. Nice Guy is there was actually a follow-up book made about No More Mr. Nice Guy.
Episode 14.
It's amazing that you have those episodes referenced.
Oh
Yeah,
my.
No More Mr. Nice Guy is a very, very important book for a lot of Armenian guys, a lot of Middle Eastern guys to read. Let me explain to you a little bit about why that's so important. A lot of us Armenian guys were conditioned to always be polite and to be respectful and to always, this is a key, this is a big one, to always be mindful of our reputation within the Armenian community,
The
as in,
family's reputation, yeah.
yeah, as in you have to be nice. You have to be, you have to act a certain way. You have to keep a
It's
smile
nice.
on your face.
Yeah.
So we were constantly, at the very least, I was constantly conditioned to never show or never be exactly me. because that's not what matters. What matters is that you portray a particular image to the community. No More Mr. Nice Guy really explained the logic behind what it means when you're constantly being nice and constantly being so selfless that it puts into perspective that when you're doing this, you're really being a selfish asshole because you're never really giving 100% of yourself to anybody.
Yeah. 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 It's a very big thing in our culture. Um, do you feel like you've shifted because you're a nice guy, do you think it shifted you a little bit moving forward, or was it just kind of a temporary thing for you?
No, I think it's changed me a lot. The problem is that there's some core tendencies that die very, very hard. As in, you could you could do it, you could stick to it, but again, like you said, your brain to some point will test you to see exactly who's stronger, you or your mind. So like you try and you try and you try, but when you come to a really, really shit situation where you're either going to look like a complete asshole or you're going to be the nice guy, I guess that's the moment of truth for a lot of people. I think that takes a little bit of trial and error until you actually get it. But um yeah, it's I'll be brutally honest. I'll lay it out here. I came to my moment of truth um my last relationship where I was holding ground, holding ground, holding ground, but then the moment of truth is like you got to watch out for your reputation, right? So you can't fully be complete dick. You can't. You got to watch out for your next relationship
Yeah.
because this is an Armenian community at the end of the day. This isn't just somebody that you're just going to not talk to ever again and just see you later. So
Yeah.
I guess if you are a nice guy and you're trying to really really shake the habit, maybe not socializing and dating within the Armenian community would probably be my best tip.
Yeah, because it's
If
tough
you're
to just go from 0 to 100. So it's like
yeah,
you
you got
gotta
to build up to that 100%. You got to build up to that. You can't just drop the nice guy bit and still be working in retail or sales because it's very very hard to not be a nice guy in sales and retail, real estate, everything. I think you're forced to be a nice guy.
yeah, yeah. Crazy. Yeah, it's a interesting. Yeah, you're right. Shit. So
Oh, can you show me 10 houses this weekend?
yeah.
Yeah,
No worries.
100%.
Oh yeah, no, don't worry. It was my son's birthday. Yeah, fuck him. Don't worry about my son. Yeah, I'll just go show you houses.
It's a fucking asshole anyways, spoiled prick. Kid's a fucking lion one day, a dinosaur the next.
Yeah, you saw that, right?
Yeah.
He does that to random people on like in the mall we're walking. He goes, rah, like
Leo, cut it out.
nah, just let him do it. Who cares? Okay, so my next one, speaking of Armenians, this book was really great. Read it twice or now, physically read it. Millionaire Next Door. So
Wow, that sounds interesting. Tell me about that.
so this guy, the author, he interviewed tons, hundreds and hundreds of millionaires, and tried to see the similar qualities and all this stuff. And the main thing that he noticed was the people who are usually flashy, like let's just talk Armenians, right? Gucci this, Prada that, right? All this stuff are not the people who are actually millionaires. The millionaire next door, it's like someone that you don't even know in your neighborhood, the normal person that you see in their Jeep Grand Cherokee or Honda CRV, they're the millionaires, right? Because what they do with their money, and he talks about that, right? So it's just interesting that like it's not usually the flashy people. It's the people hidden next door are usually the millionaires because, and of course, there's the millionaires who are still living in mansions, living in all this stuff, but just like regular millionaires, it's not like that. So my one of my agents was at a listing appointment. You know, the house is $1.2 million, but they bought it for like 700,000. So they're not, you know, they're not loaded. They each make 200 grand a year, husband and wife, but they're buying a $6 million house. And she was like so shocked because I went to their house. It's nothing special. I went. The wife drives a Honda CRV. The other guy drives a Subaru, and they're like in their 40s, and they dress regular. She's like, I asked them. She's like, "Oh, we make good money, but we invest everything." And that's the normal, typical millionaire.
Yeah, man, it makes you feel really embarrassed sometimes. The shit that I've done.
Well, yeah, I mean, we've all done it, right? And that's why that book, because I read it at a young age, well, not young, like probably 7 years ago. And that book really changed me in the sense, and I'm so glad Betty's like this too. I don't care. I don't give two shits about name brands. I don't fall into Betty either. Like that book really stuck to me. It was like, I'm going to make it a mission to not care about name brand clothing and stuff like that. Um, so that's something that it's really stuck to me, and I really try to be good with that.
Yeah, that should be standard read for any Armenian in every store.
I don't think Armenians are they're gonna be like, this is stupid. Get out of here.
So my last one for right now, and guys, again, I got a ton of books on the Audible list. I'll share with you if you want to hit me up directly. But my last one that really did something for me, and I'll do one from this last couple months, is Principles by Ray Dalio.
That's a thick ass book, no?
Yeah, it was a good one. It was a good one,
I've
man.
never listened. Yeah, never. So yeah, go please. I want to hear about this.
So Ray Dalio is the CEO, or I was the CEO, the person who ran Bridgewater Associates, basically like this large venture capitalist or hedge fund, that they manage a lot of money. They make a
I think
lot
he's
of
the
people
number one most I don't know what it's called,
it's the
productive
world's largest
investor.
hedge fund.
Yeah, and he's I think been the best as far as like performance too. Not
Yeah,
Warren
he
Buffett.
fucked up. He fucked up big time back in like the 1980, I think the 1980s or 1990s, where he was on TV and he was saying a bunch of shit that like he thinks this and he thinks this and he thinks this is completely wrong, and people basically, if you're willing to risk your whole reputation over what you're saying, and your business revolves around giving people investment advice, the guy basically threw it down the drain at one point because he got cocky and said a bunch of shit on like I forget what it was, like CNN or something like that. So he like one of the key takeaways was like you gotta be prepared if you're willing to like say something like risky, to be able to start from zero all over again. And it's not an easy pill to swallow because people will remember that shit, especially when you lost them a lot of money.
So what were that's crazy. So what were some of his like top principles that pop in your mind? Like is it like something he goes by? Like what is that?
Yeah, it's a bunch of business and personal principles. He treats his employees like gold. And he talks about how to listen to people, how to give people particular significance, how to cut people off that 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 for sure don't, like, they do not belong.
Mm.
Uh, he he talks a lot about how to properly run a business. This is something like any entrepreneur that is hoping to hire people, or at the very least, if they run a team, this is must-read material.
Really? It's
Um,
that serious,
this,
huh?
yeah, it's very very serious. This I wasn't expecting it to come out of this book, but I told my dad about this book, like some serious
Look,
serious.
I've heard like some feedback, right? And I want to hear your, I don't know. It's like some person who's like reviewing the book said it's kind of like the, um, what do you call it? The Bible of business.
You could call it that, yeah. It was very interesting to be able to get a condensed view. Somebody who's running a hedge fund writing a book that could be applied to like a restaurant, a nightclub, fucking landscaping business. It was just pure gold. This book should have cost maybe like $500.
Wow.
It was unreal. I got
Wow.
so much. To be honest with you, come to think of it, I can't really remember a whole lot. I feel like now it's not even so much that I'm remembering information. It's almost like my dad raised me, and my second dad was Ray Dalio, and
So
I'm
like,
operating
yeah,
like
it feels like you shifted like your energy, like whether you're like, okay, today I'm going to do principle 17. Like you're not doing that. So it just shifted your energy and your mindset of like, okay, oh, that's how you're supposed to run a business or like treat people. Like, is that like kind of how it just shifted your energy to
yeah,
something different?
yeah. It's like basically he's what he's trying to get at is like every person on your team should be should be given a very, very significant amount of value that like you can't afford to lose them type of value. And and anybody that's on there that doesn't bring anything to the team should just not be there.
It's crazy. Damn, you got me um, wanting to. So was that a good listen, or did you read that?
No, I read it and he was the person narrating.
Oh wow.
He narrated a good amount of it. He actually had cancer at one point too. Dude, there was just so much good
So you
information
read
in
it, and
that.
it got you going. Like you were reading it, you were into it.
It took me a week. It
Wow,
was like a
that's a
20-hour audiobook.
that's a fucking thick book, bro. I've seen it.
Yeah,
Wow.
it was good. It was a good read. But anyway, yeah, that one in terms of business, I think that was my favorite book thus far.
Wow.
Ray
Interesting.
Dalio Principles.
Okay, I like that. So this next book, it was a small book. I read it, got through it within like 2 weeks, not a week like you, but it was a simple book. Lincoln on Leadership, Abraham Lincoln. I learned a lot about him, did shit I didn't know, and just because I'm in leadership now, and like obviously you are too, right? Running the business. Just very cool how he was the president and like how he valued leadership, right? In the sense of like he was always out. So like he would go to the war field. Like, they were during the Civil War, he was trying to stop slavery and all that. He would go. He's like, and people would be like, well, you can't go. Like, what are you doing? He's like, no, they need to see me. They need to feel me. They need to know what they're fighting for, right? These are people fighting for him, basically. So he would go within his ranks was one of the big things, and just like get around, ask questions. Hey, how you feeling? What's going on? Right. So it's like, how can you put that into business when you're running an organization, running a restaurant? Like, can you just, not saying you, but like instead of being in your office all day, like, can you just walk around and just talk to the employees? Like, hey, how's it going? What's going on? Right. Key lessons like that. Never reacting to a situation. If someone pisses you off in your business or company, it's like, take it in, think on it, process it, move on. So I thought it was a really good book for leadership. Within those, real quick, I just want to add, Fierce Conversations, really good listen. It's actually very tough to listen to, but just I have a real hard problem with, tough conversations. And the one thing that stuck to me, there's a lot of things that stuck to me, but one thing was like, lead with the bad first. Just get it out there. Because a lot of
What do
times,
you mean?
like if I have to like talk to you and I have to reprimand you, right? Let's say you have an employee, they've been late and you have to, I don't know, what do you do? Like, let's say you just have to write them up, right? Usually it's like, say something good, give them the bad, then say something good, kind of the sandwich that most people say. Her philosophy is like, start with the bad. Hey, Adi, you've been late. We're going to have to write you up. Because most people know why they're there, and you're talking and they're just thinking in their minds, like, what is going to happen? What is going to happen? So it's just like lead with it right away. So that was just two kind of quick things combined. But yeah, those are Fierce Conversations. It's a tough listen. It's a very tough listen, but some really good
How
nuggets.
have you started applying what you've learned in Fierce Conversation, or are you still baking it into your?
No, I do that now. Like if something's on my mind, I go right into it. Um, there was a couple of other things of like pouring into the people, right? Um, just like on like when you're talking to employees or whatever, pour into them, right? Talk to them, like ask them stuff. Don't tell them, right? Like ask, like just very like cool stuff. But the biggest thing is just the fierce, get to the point, um, bring the tough stuff out right away. It's really helpful, especially someone like me or you or, Mr. Nice Guy. It's like, we want to be nice about it. So like recently, just right now, so we put our apartment up for rent and, we had 30 applications. So a few people called me, hey, what's going on? We already got someone to rent it out. And it's a tough conversation, right? Because you feel bad because you want people to have it. Everyone seems so nice. They really want it. And instead of like, what I would have done is like, hey, Adi, you were great. Everything about you. We really liked you. Now you'd be like, what the fuck is he saying? Where's he going with this? Where's he going? It's like, but unfortunately, we're going to someone else. So now I'm calling people. I'm like, hey, unfortunately, Adi, we're going with someone else. But I think you're great. All this stuff has just been a tough decision. So just getting that out right away has just really been a cool thing.
You guys have been calling everybody too?
No, whoever's been like in contact with me, I call them and just let them know, because I'm also a real estate agent. I don't want people to like my reputation to be like, oh, he's a dick.
That's funny. I'll check that out. Fierce Conversation.
It's a tough listen though. Not gonna lie.
Why do you say that?
I don't know. I guess because I would listen to it while I'm on the treadmill and like it's not pumping me up, and I hate being on the treadmill. So probably two things at
I
once.
see. It takes a lot for you to concentrate on.
Yeah, yeah.
I see what you're saying. Okay. Okay.
Because it was a very technical book too. So it's like, but
Well,
it's very effective though. So there's a lot more. Do you have anything else you wanted to share? Because I have like
I got a ton of audiobooks. So I'm sure next or few episodes I'll be listening to a really, really good one. I'll let you know about it. But yeah, man, these are my few that are really they're in me now. You know?
So there's two more that it's within the same. I'm gonna go if you're okay with it.
Yeah, 100%.
It is a Shant and Ari podcast. I can do what I want. This was more. So this book, Betty got me right when we found out Betty's pregnant. It's the Benjamin Watson. He used to be an ex-Patriots player, and the book is The New Dad's Playbook. So it's just about being a dad.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Tell me about that. Can
Yeah.
you tell me what the books like? What their like best advice is?
A lot of the cool stuff was actually like pre-baby, like how to prep, what to set up. Very technical, right? What to expect from your wife when she's pregnant, because it's some stuff you gotta expect. So that was that. And the other is The Awakened Family by Shafali Tabari, right? I follow her on Instagram too. She's a cool follow. The Conscious Family is just a different perspective on parenthood than what we are used to. While Ari walks around in his kitchen.
Had to change my scenery real quick. Sorry.
Very different from how we were raised, right? About when you tell a kid no, no, no all the time, when you tell a kid as they're growing up, like eat this, why don't you eat your food, you get mad, then they start, it really starts fucking up with their minds. As a kid, when you're like telling them shit to do when they don't want to do it, right? They don't know. Like they're just they're experimenting life. And us as parents, we're like, no, no, don't do this. No, don't do that. You have to do this. Everything is scheduled. You have to eat this. This is what you have to eat, right? It's like, imagine someone right now telling you, Adi, you have to eat this right now. You're like, I'm not hungry. Like, but it's like you're forced to eat it. And now me and Betty are really conscious about that. Like, if Leo's not, like, we give him something, it's your time to eat, but he's like, I'm not hungry. So we started thinking of like, oh, okay, like, yeah, sometimes like I could eat super early, but now I'm not hungry. Like, it's a different way of thinking how to raise a child. And also another really key thing was bringing our negativity into the relationship with your kid. Like bringing our anxiety, our stress from outer experiences to him or her, and separating that and just let them be them, right? Just let them grow into, not like he has to be a basketball player because I'm a basketball player. He needs to learn. Like, no, let him do him, whatever he wants to do. And I think it's a lot different than how we were raised. So that was a really
Where do
good
you
book.
the line separates pushing something on him versus recommending to him? Do you
It's
think that
tough, right?
things like, yo, Leo, sports are cool, you know?
And it's tough,
Um,
right? Because also, if they want to stop doing something, you don't want to force them to do it, but then you also don't want them to be a quitter, right? Because
Leo's,
no, he's
yeah,
not. But it's like one of those things because you don't want to have a kid just start something, stop something, but you don't want to force him. If he doesn't like it, why are we going to force him to do something? But then it's the fine line of, well, is he just quitting because it's hard right now? Right. So the fine line you said about recommending stuff, it's like you get him to try things. Hey, try this. And if he likes it, he likes it. If he doesn't, he doesn't. I'm definitely going to want him to try sports, any sport, because I think it's a good way to build confidence, a good way to learn how to be with others, socialize,
bang,
communicate. What?
bang bitches.
Sure.
Are we live? Yeah, we're still live.
Oh, we're still recording. Okay. Uh, so yeah, what are your thoughts?
I think I was with one of my friends, Azat, today, and he listened to a couple audiobooks. He said that some of it is instinctual, but a lot of very, very good audiobooks, especially for dads. He has this technique that he does with his kid where, like, like typically like the wife breastfeeds and feeds with like the bottle and whatnot. He feeds him a lot, like skin to skin,
Mm,
and does that whole thing because he wants his kid to also have that sort of
connection
emotional connection with him too. Like he could come to him if he has like an
issues.
issue,
Yeah.
the dad type of problems, like, oh, dad, I got a flat tire,
Can you see your dad
It's like,
doing that when you were a kid?
I have problems. If you want to know the honest truth, I have problems showing like affection and emotion because of my dad.
Yeah, same here. We both do because we didn't get any growing up.
Yeah, I don't know. If I find it kind of weird still to like, go give me a kiss.
Yeah, yeah. My dad says I love you to Leo though, so that's good. I'm just like, hey, what about me?
Skip the generation.
Yeah. He's like playing with them. He's not. I'm like, you did.
affection in the Johnstown family and the lineage skips a generation. So if you want a dad in our family to show you love, you got to be a great, you got to be a grandchild or a great great grandchild of that
Yeah,
particular being.
we have definitely missed that in our childhood, and that's another thing of just showing affection to the kid, right? And um, but then there's like the fine line. You don't want him to be so weak, and you don't like. It's just this. There is no perfect answer, man. It's just this game that you're. It's it's tough, man.
So yeah, dad books are definitely cool. I'll definitely I'm positive once I actually step into that realm, I'll probably be flooded with dad books. Then again, I kind of want instinct to kind of
Kick in.
guide me. Yeah.
It will. Instinct will, but you also want to kind of be aware of different stuff to see what you gravitate towards. Because the way we were raised is not the best, right? Not in the, we were obviously we our parents are great, they love us and stuff, but there's I think they could have done a little better in some areas if you agree.
Yeah, just the idea of what you can do, what you can't do.
And it was
You
tough. It
know,
was tough for them. They came from another country. It's just a lot going on in their lives. Like we just have to get up, go to work. Like it's so different. They just came here. They don't speak the language. My dad doesn't know how to help me with homework. He doesn't fucking know like anything, you know. So it's like it's different. But there's one thing, um, one thing that stuck to me is like someone we know, like friends or whatever, you know, Armenian community, and they were like, they're still like the same as their parents, like how our parents parent to their kids. And they were like, well, you know, this is how our parents parented us, and we turned out okay. And then that always stuck to me. And this was like 2 years ago. And I'm like, I don't want just okay for him.
yeah, I don't want that either, man. That's a good plan. It's not like you're not just trying to keep it baseline. You're trying to basically have like a superhuman
Yeah,
that you're raising.
a lion. Just what he is.
Yeah, literally a lion.
He growls like a lion too, like all day. So
You guys got to stop dressing him in beige. I'm actually confusing him with like a baby lion.
this was good, man. You got me pumped on principles. I think I'm going to check that. If out of all mine, which one would you probably listen to or read first if you would have to?
Napoleon Hill one for sure. Think and Grow Rich because a lot of people, for a lot of different reasons, love it. I feel like it's on that level of principles.
Yeah, I think for me, I think principles is something you kind of hyped it up good, man.
It's a good book.
And
Very very good book.
any podcasts that you recommend that you listen to, or
So I haven't yet become a Joe Rogan avid listener, but I am gonna start. Ever since this whole backlash with Spotify and him, like I don't know what, but I'm definitely gonna start listening to Joe Rogan more. But my podcasts have all been like weightlifting stuff,
okay, yeah, what's a good one?
Mind Pump,
Okay,
and I just I just finished an audiobook that was narrated by Franco Colombo. Him in his Italian accent. It's
how
fucking
good is it?
great. It was so good. You know, he was the strongest man in the world at one point.
Really?
Yeah, he was 5'5", like 198 pounds.
Well,
How fucking crazy is that? He could deadlift 750 pounds.
some podcasts I listen to, probably one of the big one. When I listen to podcasts, it's more real estate related. So if you ever want real estate investing knowledge, because they go through every type of real estate investing, the Bigger Pockets podcast, really good.
I've listened to his book. Have you listened to his?
One or two of them, yeah. They have a bunch of books. That's a good one.
The guy with the lisp, right?
Yeah, yeah. Grant Cardone, his podcast, the one on YouTube on Mondays, he does real estate investing. That's a good one. And then PBD and Joe Rogan, obviously. And for basketball, I listen to Bill Simmons' podcast for NBA and sports.
We'll dive in a little bit deeper into podcasts on the next one. I was gonna definitely chime in with hopefully my next one, but I'm telling you, man, it's been audiobooks like crazy this past like 2 years. It just hasn't stopped.
That's good.
Yeah, I feel like I have a PhD in, in the most random shit.
All right, well, that's all I got. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed um, some some of our book recommendations. I know we missed a ton. There's so many. If you guys have any, please. Obviously, you could tell me and Adi, love to listen. Even Betty reads a lot of books. She's actually crushing me right now in reading.
Is she
Yeah, um, she's an avid reader too now. So yeah, send us any recommendations, man.
is she more fiction or nonfiction, Betty?
No, more personal development. She reads a lot of like personal like development stuff. So not nonfiction stuff. She's not into that stuff.
No Harry Potter.
No, no, she just spiritual kind of stuff.
Is that me? All right. Well, good night, Shant.
Good night, everyone.